Hello, everyone. And in this episode of the Knitrepreneurs, we are going to look at something called the lipstick index. It's
Ooh.
new to me, so I'm going to interview Prue about that. That's our business topic. We have got books to share. We have got quick updates. And of course, the chicken will visit us. The chicken of wisdom will visit us. All right.
So the lipstick index, should we start there?
Let's start there. Prue, please. What is the lipstick index? It's got a bit of a historical thing there, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So back in the 30s and 40s, maybe people going through a bit of hardship like they are today, with our impending recession and things like that.
Cost
So
of living rising, mortgages going up, all the stuff.
exactly. So people don't have that much money to spend on maybe updating their wardrobe or buying a bigger car or what have you, but they need still some kind of taste of luxury in their life. So the lipstick index relates to the fact that women in the 30s and 40s who couldn't afford a new dress would perhaps come at buying a new lipstick. It gave them a little bit of color, gave them a sense of having something new and something luxurious, but it was affordable luxury. So today a lipstick in Australia costs, well, let's say about $30-$40, which is also the cost of a skein of yarn.
Oh.
of beautiful quality luxurious yarn. So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, so I think it's a really interesting concept for us to consider as Knitrepreneurs, because if you're a indie dyer, you might consider pricing your yarn according to the cost of a new lipstick, or a kind of middle to luxurious brand lipstick. If you're a designer, you might be designing for a one skein wonder, knowing that people might only be able to buy one luxurious skein of yarn. So if you're designing something that enables them to then utilize that skein of yarn, say a pair of socks or a cowl or something, then that's going to be more attractive to today's audience. The other thing is that if you were to run a workshop, you might even consider your pricing to be the cost of 2 skeins of yarn. So it's not outside the realm of what's possible. So it might be 1 or 2 skeins of yarn. And as a designer, you may also consider pricing your patterns as, half or a third of a skein of yarn as well.
Absolutely. And so is that what you've done personally with Dear Prue?
I've noticed that one skein wonders have been definitely more attractive products. They're the ones that are really moving on my pattern list. But also I do have a lot in that kind of category because they've mostly been generated from running workshops and teaching people different skills within a tight time frame, using a reasonable one to 2 skeins of yarn for my for the project. So yeah, 100 grams of yarn. So things like my open-hearted mitts or the slip float wrap. No, sorry, that uses 2. So that one's a little bit more, luxurious because it's 2 skeins of yarn. Yeah, so I think it's definitely something I've considered. I've noticed a huge uptick in my socks classes. I taught 5 sock classes over this calendar year. Again, I think that's because people are buying one beautiful skein of sock yarn and they want to know what to do with it.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And I think it would be around cost, but we're also quite time poor as well. So,
Yes,
a cowl or a set of socks or, the one skein project is, doable in, a few nights after work, as opposed to the seemingly mammoth effort of a jumper or something like that.
And that's quite an investment to buy all those skeins of yarn, well outside the scope of someone who's on a budget, whose mortgage has gone up by 2% over the last few months. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So that's the challenge tonight, Knitrepreneurs, to think about how the lipstick index might influence or has already influenced your business over the last 2 to 3 months, or how it could influence it going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd love to hear if that's a new idea for you, and how you might apply that to your nutripreneurial activities,
Mm.
to see to see if that could change the way you think. Or I wonder also if for some nutripreneurs out there that they were feeling a little bit I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, a bit bad about charging X price, or a bit, maybe they felt something was a bit cheap and maybe they felt something was a bit expensive. But perhaps now if you can rethink, you know,
Mm.
reconceptualize why things cost what they do, and what sort of section you're sitting yourself into,
Mm.
perhaps that makes you feel better about, what you actually need to charge, that type of thing. So it would be interesting to hear those reflections as well.
Yeah, and obviously, it's a bit controversial because obviously normally people might cost their products according to the time or the
Yeah.
materials or the wholesale price plus or minus, and this cost, that cost, shipping, etc. But this is really getting you to think about, what's the cost of a lipstick? I mean, that's another thing. That's why it's an index, because what a lipstick costs here in Australia is going to be quite different to what it costs in the US, to what it costs in the UK. So yeah, they're all things to consider. But yeah, interesting concept, right? I learned it from my husband's auntie who owns a bookstore, and she noticed during COVID that book sales went up because, again, the cost of a new paperback is about the same cost as a lipstick.
As a lipstick. I think it's also an interesting way of, you might get caught up in, oh, well, the base yarn costs this, the dye costs this, my labor costs this, my labor costs this. And you get caught up in the cost of that particular product, where I like the idea that the lipstick index kind of makes you think a bit more widely, and what is the positioning of that product in a wider sort of financial landscape in modern Australia, that type of thing. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Good idea. I like it. I like it a lot.
So book. Yes, you go. Book. Let's see a book.
Okay. I have a book, which will lead into another short conversation too. I have this book by Stephanie Pearl McPhee, who I've read from her from the couple of last episodes, on a book called Meditations for Women Who Knit Too Much. And it's a different book of hers, but still very small format, not too thick book. And this one is called Things I Learned from Knitting, Whether I Wanted to or Not. So you can tell.
His stern teacher is knitting. You will sit down and you will learn.
You will, knitting as a teacher. And so you can tell what her approach is like, and her things are like. So what I wanted to read out was the 11th thing she'd learned from knitting. So it all comes in, she's got it all numbered, the 11th thing, and it's called Good Things Come in Small Packages, but she's crossed out the SM on the small, and so it reads Good Things Come in All Packages. And I'm just going to read you the first paragraph, because it's like most artists, I support my work with an extensive and varied collection of the materials I use to create. Picasso had paint, Michelangelo had marble, Mozart had piano, pen and paper. As a knitter, I have yarn. And I loved reading that, because I just thought, yes, we are artists. And I love this idea of knitting as art. So and I was just going to say, in the book, there's all very, very short chapters. It's very, very easy to read. But that just made me think about, we've got knitting and we're used to producing the same sorts of things. But I also like thinking about, well, could we have knitting as an art form, like not just a wearable art form, but what other art forms, what other ways of using knitting as art? And I do like an artist called Kate Just. She's a Melbourne artist. And she uses knitting as to make artifacts that she displays in galleries, and a lot of it is words. She's got really quite, there might be one or two words on this piece of hand knitted work, and it might just say, chill out or relax, or
that's her self-care series that she's working on at the moment.
Yeah, and she's got this other artwork which she'd had the same words over and over and again on different colors, and it was anonymous, was the woman, and it was just again and again and again. That's really powerful, and the form is is knitting. And I just love that idea. And I thought that's why I want to get my knitting machine up and going soon, and to just see what can I produce, you know, because you don't have necessarily the time to sit there. But if I can use yarn as paint,
Yeah.
as a canvas, and, you know, do it quicker on a machine, see what the machine can do. Amazing. Because there was this other lady who knitted the universe on a knitting machine.
Oh my God.
I know. And there's an exhibition at the State Library of Victoria called Handmade Universe. And I think it's there, part of that. It's a bit of an older thing. I'll send you the video or I'll link it or whatever. But she's an engineering student as well. So she engineered this knitting machine and created a printout, what do you call it? Product of which mapped the universe.
That's incredible.
Unreal. Yeah. So just that lovely idea that knitting is not just stuff we have to wear or make chickens out of. It's actually, although that's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, just because something is functional doesn't mean it's not art as well.
Exactly right. Like it goes this whole way around. And so I love those conversations about, yarn-based art, knitting as an art form, as a painting form, you know, I use that term loosely, but yeah, I think that's just a really nice way to think about it too.
Well, it's interesting that you brought this topic up, because it was the focus of my reflection in Yarnology magazine, which came out officially on Monday. I know I shared with you my copies last week.
Yeah.
But so, and really overcoming that mental hurdle of calling myself an artist, you know, which I still get a little bit, but, you know, because as a knitter or a maker, or as a, you know, as a crocheter or whatever, you know, you sort of, it's focused on the making and the process, which is an art form as well. Art is about process. And we often add that little word "just" as well.
Yes, we
Very
do.
diminutive, and it's like, you know, I'm not doing anything exciting. I'm reproducing things, but a lot of art starts as reproduction. And even, you know, all those. I went to the Picasso exhibition in Melbourne back in July, and, you know, Picasso was painting really ordinary still lives, and, you know, replicating artwork, and his contemporaries were replicating the same kinds of things. And then he found his voice. So no one now looks back at those things and says, oh, that's not really art. Yeah, it was Picasso, but it wasn't really art. They go, that's art. So some of those things that you're producing at home that you think, oh, it's just knitting, or it's just crochet, or it's just weaving, who knows, one day it might form your oeuvre of work, and as an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't want to call yourself an artist, then don't. You don't have to.
You don't have to.
I know that word "just." I won't go on about this because I could get up on that soapbox thing. Women use it a lot.
Yes. No, they don't.
So it's us say, oh, I'm just at this. I'm just. Yeah. No. I'm a writer. I'm a knitter. I'm an artist. I'm an entrepreneur. Not just any of these things. So
yes,
own it. Own it.
T-shirt saying it's something with "just" crossed out, or like, you know, cut the just or something. I don't know. Let's keep playing with that.
My first knitting art project.
Or maybe, yeah.
And what's your just? And what's your book tonight, Prue?
My book. So I've picked something off my library. I've got a library here right next to me. You can't see, but off camera. And it's called Faux Taxidermy Knits by, here we go, Louise Walker. I'm such a fan of this designer. She has gorgeous things like this.
Oh, look. The
vegetarian moose head. It's not vegan because it's wool, but it could be. You could use a plant-based, or I guess acrylic yarn.
Yep, good.
Look at this. I've always wanted one of these, but I would never want to fell a beautiful animal like this and have a, you know, an actual tiger skin rug, but you can knit one. It's got other, the cover design is really awesome too. I have actually made that one. I try to knit one project from all of my knitting books. So I made that one for a friend. So yeah, they're fantastic patterns. A little bit different, you know. It's not a lot of knitters will knit functional things for themselves or for others. Some of them are functional and some of them are just art.
Pretty. They're just cute. They look good. Just art. No. Some of them are. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And they were fun to make. And, and why not?
Exactly. She sells kits. You can, if you follow her on Insta, I think if you just Google Louise Walker, you'll find her. She's got other books and kits, and she even has like a mystery club where you can get a kit of an animal you don't know what it's going to be. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah. And it's just made me sort of think, some of those things, they're gorgeous and fun and certainly not functional and definitely not necessary and even a little bit ridiculous. But I'm starting to think, if we've got a little bit of ridiculous in the everyday, that's probably a really good thing. Let's not take ourselves too seriously, accept a little bit of ridiculous and run with it and have a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that almost brings us to the chicken of wisdom, who's a little bit ridiculous, but also intensely wise. But just in terms of updates, we haven't given any updates yet. So I just wanted to say that I've still got some tickets to my Natunga Knitmas workshops, Christmas knitting workshops, coming up in the next week or so. Prospect ones are sold out. I'm going to regroup, update my website. I've got some exciting interstate classes, some new classes for Adelaide as well that will be announced in January, probably, maybe December. We'll see how organised I am. So that's my update. And Jess, do you have any updates?
Not for Yarn Tribe Victoria, no. I've got a couple of emails to send out this week and a website to fix, apparently. And then I will, and then we'll be up and running as soon as I get over a bit of a hurdle of just getting through the end of the school year. So it's all coming after that. So yeah, absolutely. So shall we have the chicken?
Oh yes, please. Welcome to the chicken of wisdom.
The chicken is so relevant tonight. The chicken's back to sharing a bit of her own. I am going for an older one that has been posted, but it's very, very relevant, and you'll see why. Hang on, I'll just take my phone off because I'm just going to show you the photo. So the chicken of wisdom, everyone, says, "Your crazy shines bright.
Oh.
Own it." Like, hang on. I'm sorry about the background, everyone. There we go.
So
your crazy shines bright. Hashtag own it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, and on that note, we'll say good night and we'll see you next week. If you have suggestions for business topics through a Knitrepreneurs lens, please comment and let us know what you're keen to have us talk about. We'd also love to have guests on our show. If people, there's Knitrepreneurs out there who want to share their insights, we're more than happy to have you on and interview you. And techniques that you want us to talk about or demonstrate, maybe even. We need to get a little bit more organized for that. But yeah, so looking forward to more Knitrepreneur episodes. We've got a couple more before Christmas and then in the new year. So
give ourselves some planning time over summer and we'll come back at you with some cool stuff.
Excellent.
We've been enjoying ourselves, so I hope you're enjoying the episodes. By all means, leave us some comments and respond to anything that we've said in the episodes. We'd love to hear from you. It'd be great.
Excellent. All right. See everyone. See you, Jess.
See you later. Good